Look up in many parts of the world, and laundry is part of the landscape. Shirts sway from balconies, towels hang over railings, bed sheets rise and fall like quiet flags above the street. But in many American suburbs, the scene is strangely different. Wide backyards, bright sun, trimmed lawns, and no clotheslines, which raises a simple question. If the sun is free, the wind is free, and America has so much room, why do millions of families choose a hot, energy-hungry machine hidden inside a laundry room? The answer is not just about drying clothes, it is about post-war history, advertising, house design, status, weather, and how a country defined modern life. Let's get into it right here on Secrets of Simple Things. Before the dryer, laundry belonged to the sun. Before the clothes dryer became a household default, laundry belonged outside. In America, as in much of the world, drying clothes in the open air was ordinary. Clotheslines stretched across backyards, sheets hung from porches, shirts dried in sunlight, towels stiffened in the breeze. For generations, this was how clean laundry became dry laundry. At first, there was nothing embarrassing about it. Line drying was not born as a symbol of poverty or backwardness. It was basic physics turned into habit. Water evaporated under sunlight. Moving air carried moisture away. A rope, a few pins, and a clear day could do the work without fuel, wiring, or a monthly bill. In that sense, the clothesline was one of the simplest household technologies ever made. Cheap, reliable, and powered by the sky. But after World War II, the American home began to change. Tasks that once depended on hands, weather, and patience were about to be handed over to machines. The post-war machine dream. The real shift began after World War II, when the American home became a showroom for the future. The economy was booming. Suburbs spread outward. New houses rose with driveways, lawns, basements, and utility rooms designed for a new kind of domestic life. Into those homes came refrigerators, washing machines, dishwashers, and clothes dryers. These machines were not sold as ordinary tools, they were sold as progress. A refrigerator meant abundance. A washing machine meant less labor. A dryer meant laundry no longer had to wait for the sun, wind, or a clear afternoon. For manufacturers, this was a powerful promise. Advertisements presented the dryer as a time-saving miracle. Especially for homemakers. No more rushing outside before rain, no more stiff towels on the line, no more planning laundry around the weather. Place the clothes inside, press a button, and let the machine finish the work. That is how a habit changes, not only because a machine is useful, but because it feels like the future. But convenience was only part of the story. The other part was weather, and America does not have just one kind of sky. Weather made the machine feel reliable. It is easy to assume that outdoor drying only needs sunshine. But drying clothes outside is more delicate than that. It needs time, dry air, trustworthy weather, and space. Across the United States, that trust can be hard to find. In parts of the South, humid air can leave clothes damp for hours. In northern states, winter can make outdoor drying difficult for months. Elsewhere, a sunny morning can turn into rain. Pollen and dust can settle into fabric. The dryer solved all of that with one thing: certainty. It did not care if the air was wet, cold, dusty, or full of pollen. It did not need a careful eye on the sky. It offered a simple promise: press start, and the clothes will be dry soon. For a culture built around schedules, speed, and efficiency, that reliability mattered. The dryer did not just save time, it made laundry predictable. But weather alone cannot explain everything. Many places have rain, humidity, and cold winters, yet people still hang clothes outside. So what made the American clothesline disappear from view? When clotheslines became a social signal, then the clothesline picked up a meaning it never had before. In many American suburbs, especially around the middle of the 20th century, outdoor laundry began to look less like a routine and more like a public signal. A shirt on a line was no longer just drying in the sun. To some people, it suggested a family lacked modern appliances or that the neighborhood was less polished than it wanted to appear. This was not about laundry being dirty, it was about the image of the suburb. The ideal suburban home was supposed to look controlled: neat grass, clean fences, tidy driveways, and private domestic work hidden behind walls. Trash cans and wet laundry were not meant to be part of the view. The front of the house became a stage, and messy details were pushed indoors. That is why some homeowners associations restricted or banned outdoor clotheslines to protect property values and preserve a certain neighborhood appearance. In the process, the clothesline became more than a rope. It became a social message. The dryer won partly because it was fast, but it also won because it made laundry invisible, and many still choose the machine for one specific reason: the way it makes fabric feel. The feeling of softness. The dryer did not just change how laundry dried, it changed what dry laundry was supposed to feel like. A towel pulled from a dryer can feel warm, soft, and fluffy. Clothes tumble through heated air until they come out relaxed rather than stiff. Dryer sheets add a scent many people associate with freshness. Line drying offers rewards. Sunlight can brighten fabric. Outdoor air can leave clothes with a natural smell. It saves energy and avoids constant tumbling that can wear fabric down. But sun-dried clothes can feel firmer, especially towels. For people raised on drier soft laundry, that texture may not feel fresh. It may feel unfinished. Once a culture gets used to a certain feeling, the machine is no longer just doing a job. It is helping define what clean is supposed to mean. Of course, behind that comfort was something more practical: cost. Cheap energy made convenience feel normal. In many parts of the world, running a dryer regularly would feel wasteful almost immediately. Electricity can be expensive, homes may be smaller, energy use may be watched more carefully. In those places, hanging laundry outside is not only a tradition, it is a practical calculation. Why pay for heat when the air can do the work? In the United States, the equation often felt different. For much of the dryer's rise, energy costs were low enough that many families could treat machine drying as everyday convenience. The bill arrived later, and the cost of each load felt almost invisible. That matters because dryers can use significant household energy. But when the cost is hidden inside a larger utility bill, the habit feels easier to keep. A technology becomes normal when its price feels smaller than the comfort it gives back. So the dryer became part of American life. Wash, transfer, press start, fold. But that rhythm is beginning to change. As people think more about utility bills, energy use, and the environment, the old clothesline is returning with a new meaning. Houses quietly teach people what to do. We often think we choose habits freely, but sometimes the building has already chosen for us. Many American homes were built with laundry rooms, basements, garages, or utility spaces designed around machines. There was a place for the washer, a vent for the dryer, and enough indoor space to make machine drying feel natural. In that kind of house, hanging clothes outside can feel like an extra step. Using the dryer feels like following the design. In many other countries, the layout points people in a different direction. Apartments may be smaller, but they often have balconies, rooftops, shared courtyards, or window rails where clothes can dry in the open air. Architecture does not only shelter daily life, it teaches daily life. So when American homes were built around washers and dryers, the habit became easier to repeat. The return of the clothesline. Still, it would be wrong to say Americans never dry clothes outside. Many still do, especially in rural areas, in households trying to reduce energy use, or in places where outdoor drying never disappeared. For some families, a clothesline is practical. For others, it is environmental. And for some, it is simply how laundry has always been done. In recent years, the clothesline has gained a new kind of defense. Some states have supported right-to-dry laws, limiting the power of homeowners associations to ban outdoor drying completely. The argument is not only about personal freedom, it is also about saving electricity, lowering bills, reducing fabric wear, and making a small household choice less wasteful. That is what makes the comeback interesting. A habit once treated as old-fashioned can return as intelligent, efficient, and modern. Sometimes the future is not another machine. Sometimes it is an older method, seen again through a new reason. 2 ways to think about convenience. Americans did not choose dryers simply because they forgot how sunlight works, and the rest of the world does not hang clothes outside simply because it lacks machines. These 2 habits reflect 2 different systems of daily life. One system values speed, privacy, predictability, and control. It favors a home where domestic work happens indoors, protected from weather, neighbors, and uncertainty. The dryer fits perfectly into that world. Fast, enclosed, reliable, and quiet in its social meaning. The other system accepts sun, wind, balconies, courtyards, and shared outdoor space as ordinary life. It may be slower and more weather-dependent, but it saves energy, costs less, and keeps laundry connected to the open air. Neither choice is only about fabric. Both are about what a society decides convenience should look like. Next time you hear a dryer humming behind a closed laundry room door or see bedsheets moving above a street, you are not just watching clothes dry. You are seeing 2 different answers to one small question: what does convenience really mean? If this story made you see a clothesline or a dryer differently, subscribe to Secrets of Simple Things. And if there is another everyday object, habit, or question you want us to explore next, leave your suggestion in the comments. The simplest things often hide the most surprising stories.